Hey, welcome to the NOTCAST. Another one. I got scratched by a cat. Not that you care, but I did. And as a mother of 3 cats, sometimes you have to intervene when they're being arseholes. And they were being arseholes, so I had to intervene. So be it. NOTCAST 356, Sunday, 28th of January, 2024. As you can tell by the t-shirt and the episode title, today I am talking about one of Leeds' finest exports, the Sisters of Mercy, and their debut album, First and Last and Always, released in 1985, and the singles that went out around about that time, and the eventual dissolution of the original lineup, and yada yada yada, everything that goes with that. As any good peer-reviewed academic text, which of course this absolutely is. This isn't just a middle-aged bloke talking to his phone about his record collection that he bought when he was 15. Not a chance, despite what you might think. I have got some supporting documentation that will back up everything I'm about to tell you. Most notably, the Heartland fanzine from 1990, when this is a 1991 reprint of the first 3 issues, which I bought, I think, from Reader's World, of all places, in Birmingham, which probably made all of its profits out of selling paper porn and a tiny bit of extra money out of not selling paper porn in the days when paper porn was a thing. And this book by a guitar player you may have heard of, Mr. Wayne Hussey, who joins the Sisters of Mercy at this exact point in the band's career and leaves not long after. I think the whole time he was in the band was not very long indeed, from autumn 1983 to around about the, give or take, the 22nd of October 1985, so 2 and a bit years overall, at which point in that period he played on 4 singles and an album and recorded a bunch of radio sessions. So pretty prolific, good going, made a big difference to the band, and they still play many of the songs that he wrote or co-wrote to this day. When they do play, because the Sisters don't make records these days, they make concerts and t-shirts. So we start off with autumn 1983, around about the time of the release of Temple of Love. I don't remember exactly if it was before or after I suspect. And the band's then guitar player, Ben Gunn, had decided he was going to leave the group, which is jump or pushed is not quite exactly sure. So the Sisters needed a guitar player. They had obviously Gary Marks, they had Craig Adams, they had Dr. Avalanche on drums, whichever drum machine it was at this point in time, and Andrew Eldritch on vocals and hats. And Andrew rang Wayne at home, according to the book, recommended by Muff Winwood. Now, if you don't know who Muff Winwood is, count yourself lucky. He made some records in the 80s. Some of them were not very good. Maybe some records in the 70s as well. But he was also A&R for CBS. And Muff represented the band Dead or Alive, which is the band that Wayne Hussey was in at the time. And there are some choice words about Pete Burns from Dead or Alive in here. What is it about Wayne and singers? Who knows? But Wayne was living in Liverpool. He felt his time there had run its course and come to an end. Perhaps he had the idea of going, well, perhaps there's more to me than being the guitar player in Dead or Alive. And then the phone rang. Ben left to pursue university, wherever he went, whatever he went to study. And there was a conversation about Wayne. And what Wayne said, actually, when he got the offer, is he hadn't really heard the band, but he did say the voice put me off like some kind of Darth Vader, which is an interesting point. I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. And he was asked to join on the proviso that he would change his name. The band hadn't even heard him play a note at that point. They figured if he's been recommended by Muff, he must be pretty good. So there wasn't a rehearsal or anything. He was just asked, do you want to join the Sisters? We know you can play guitar, but you'll have to change your name from Wayne Hussey. And Wayne said, no, I'm not changing my name. The idea was never mooted again. And there we go. There were some rehearsals. So the band started rehearsing in the basement of Number 7 Village Place in Burley, wherever that is. And stopped at 4:30 every afternoon so Andrew Eldritch could watch a programme on BBC, not BBC, Channel 4, called Countdown, which I think still runs to this day. It's a show where people pull words out. It's kind of like basically a posh version of televised Scrabble, if you don't know it. The idea of Andrew Eldritch going, no, we've got to stop rehearsing so I can watch my favourite TV show, is just lovely and fascinating. But that's the thing. People in bands, they aren't just the people that you think they are. They aren't just like, wandering around gloomily in hats or whatever. There's fully rounded personalities to there, whether we like them or not, it's another matter. But fully rounded personalities with little bits around it. And that's really funny, actually, is to think about that. Sometimes the band rehearsed without him, and sometimes they rehearsed with him whilst Eldritch took on the band's kind of role as effectively manager and managing business affairs and booking tours and things like that. And at that point, there's a time where you kind of make a commitment. Is the band I'm in going to be big? Is it going to be small? What's it going to be like? Nobody really knows. Is it big enough to be able to afford to have a manager or not? Should we get a manager or not? Do we care about whether we've got a manager or not? Those type of things. And can we do it ourselves? And sometimes, of course, when you do it yourself, you have it in-house, and that in itself has some advantages to it. Before he'd even played a gig with the sisters, Gary Marks, the band's then guitar player, and Wayne were talking, and Gary asked Wayne if he'd join another band with him instead of staying with the sisters. So Gary was thinking about going at that point, apparently, and that was before he'd even played a gig. Gary and Eldritch weren't really talking. And sometimes, you can be in a work environment and not talk to somebody and not get on with them. And as long as the work is the work and it works okay, you can do that. I've been in that environment. I've worked with people, 3, 4, over the hundreds of people that I've worked with that I have absolutely no time of day for, but we could work together and that was all it needed to be. And there was probably a similar situation between Gary and Eldritch, and I think Eldritch is probably not the warmest of humans, but then part of that could come from a sense of, a lot of people have it, is a sense of kind of maybe possibly, and I don't want to do armchair psychologist on this, but an element of possibly, from a personality perspective, is a degree of social anxiety or shyness, or as Michael Hutchence called it, the ego jacket, which is when you put the outfits on and stuff, you become somebody else who's a version of you who's wittier and funnier and in some cases drunker. But we all do that from certain points in certain places in our career and our lives. That's how we live. There's a theory in politics, I can't remember the name of the guy who mentioned it, but this theory about is 2 beers and a puppy is, would you trust somebody with a puppy, and would you go for 2 beers with them? And if the answer is no to both, you probably shouldn't hang out with them. Obviously not everybody listens to that, so if you go for 2 beers with somebody but you wouldn't trust them with a puppy, a switch in your head kind of goes, okay, so they're fun, but they're not necessarily responsible. If you wouldn't go for a beer with them, but you'd trust them with a puppy, it's like, well, they're quite boring, but they're reliable. And then what you want is a bit of both. And I think maybe that's a criteria everyone should use, actually, is would you go for 2 beers and a puppy with somebody? And if you wouldn't, probably don't work with them, is my opinion. But there you go. I'm a man not short of opinions, as you know. So, 1984, summer of 1984, band fueled on speed, youth and stupidity. Dr. Avalanche is a TR-909 plus some backing tapes. Gary Marks is on whatever HH is. I've written that down, but I don't know. Wayne Hussey is on a JC60. Again, I don't know what that is because I'm not really a guitarist, but I'm sure that means something to the tech heads amongst you. And Body and Soul, the EP, is the first EP that I think Wayne plays on. It's the first Wayne Hussey demo that he provided to the group. He came on this 12-inch, came on a 7-inch as well, but in the days when I was buying these and these were affordable, these were 12 inches, and 12 inches had extra tracks on. And this was my first Sisters of Mercy t-shirt, a Body and Soul t-shirt, which I bought in 1990 from, I think, Oasis in Birmingham, the famed bootleg t-shirt in Emporium. And I think it's a great little EP. It's one of the best ones. Actually, I mean, what we did see is with the release of Body and Soul in the period when Wayne was in the band, is kind of like a step change in the band's melodicism and the band's writing. So Wayne used a lot of 12-string guitars. He had a more flowery way of writing and arranging riffs. It added an extra dimension to the group, whereas previously the band had been pretty obviously kind of like the middle ground between Leonard Cohen, Motorhead and the Stooges. Oh man, that sounds fabulous, doesn't it? It really does. Whereas with Wayne on board, the band became, I think, more expansive and slightly more epic in scope. This was the first single. The 12-inch here is Body and Soul, a song that, according to the credits here, was written just by Aldrich, but it wasn't. Wayne wrote it, but because Wayne was still seeing out a contract for publishing with somebody else, the idea was, well, if I get the credit for Body and Soul, you'll get the credit for another track. Of course, the other track was a B-side, which didn't sell very many copies. Body and Soul is a Wayne Hussey track, apparently. It's also backed with Body Electric. Now, you might have heard of Body Electric. It is one of my favourite Sisters songs of all time. It wasn't on an album. In fact, this version of Body Electric, the 1984 re-recording by the 4-piece version of the band, is both A, absolutely fucking monster. It's brilliant. It's one of their best, most definitive songs. And 2, not on CD, which is still baffling considering CDs as a medium are now 40 years old. And the only version of Body Electric that is available is the 1982 CCN label version, which is on Some Girls Wander by Mistake, which is quite a fun little compilation, which of course I mentioned in the previous episode. So if you want to get and want to hear the Sisters Body Electric, this is the one to get. This is definitive dog's bollocks version. Why this version isn't on a slight case of homeward bombing, again, I don't know, but I don't make the decisions. I just buy the records and bitch about them 30 years later. Or 40 years in this case, because Body and Soul is now 40 years old, which is really, really odd and difficult. On the B-side, we have Train, which was, again, a setlist regular for a long period of time, both by that version of the band and subsequent versions of the band. And a track called After Hours. After Hours is, I think, it's very good, but it is a mood piece. It carries on from the kind of slow, glacial, very minimal, Philip Glass type goth of that you had on the Reptile House EP. So there's not a huge amount going on in After Hours. There's like 3 verses, a small number of guitar lines, and a huge chunk of atmosphere. What people forget, people think, songwriting is really, really important. It absolutely is, because if you've got no song, you've got no song. But production is super important. Production fleshes out a song and it makes a song fulfill its full potential. If the song is the meat, then the production is the sandwich, and it's what makes everything else work. And so the After Hours is a lovely track, often used to open Sisters gigs, actually, as an intro tape. Very important, of course, in that respect. Okay, so After Hours, absolutely fantastic track, absolutely love it. Opened a lot of Sisters gigs, and really great little number. I think the thing about After Hours, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, I just had to step away for a second, is that it's not really a great song, very minimal. So it's like 3 verses, guitars, lots of atmosphere, lots of production. Songs are really important, but songs aren't everything. Of course, without the song, you've got nothing, but also without the production, you don't get to fulfill the full potential of the song. And production is, if the song is the meat, so to speak, then the production is the sandwich. It's the lettuce, it's the mayo, it's the salads, it's the bun, it's everything else that goes with it. Then you need both to really fulfill your true potential. This got to number 46 in the UK charts, the highest chart position so far for the Sisters. And one of the reasons for that is because the Sisters had signed to WEA Records, as you can tell by the fact that there is a tiny little bit of information on there. Or if you want to think about WA from a slightly different angle, Warner Brothers, or as Andrew Aldrich likes to put it, they didn't sell out, they bought in, which is a fascinating way of looking at it. It's what's the point of going to all that effort, making records, writing songs, touring, poverty and penury, long hours, short fuses, no sleep, if you're not going to put the full weight that you possibly can behind the music and to give it its truest and furthest reach. What's the point of having a sports car you only take to the shops? Have it so that you take it around the track. Or what's the point of having a rocket if it just sits there? Fly to the goddamn moon, guys. This is where Body and Soul came in, and this is where the band's potential started to change. Previously, it had all been EPs, so the band were living quite hand to mouth, bits and bits of money in tiny little bits, drip feeding, going, we can afford to do 4 songs, we can afford to do 3 songs, we can afford to get to next month, we can afford to do some tours next month, we're running out of money, let's sell some t-shirts, let's book some shows, that type of thing. Whereas with WA, and signing a deal, you get an advance on your publishing, you get an advance on your recording costs, you get an opportunity to perhaps get ahead of the pack a little bit and make a little bit of a difference. The band's first show with Wayne, April the 7th, 1984 at the Birmingham Tin Can, was the first show with Wayne. Andrew hadn't rehearsed with the group up to that point, obviously having confidence in their abilities, but also at the same point coordinating all the other stuff that went with it. The band added a song called "Walk Away" to their set list, and that was again one of the first co-writes with Wayne. It was recorded for a Pill session in June 1984, and as I've mentioned in the previous episode, the Pill sessions were released in 2021, 2 years ago, on CD and LP. The first new album of Sisters of Mercy studio recordings that was previously unreleased since Vision Thing in 1990. The band are nothing if not Spartan in their release schedules. And the BBC sessions, as I've mentioned previously, is 3 radio sessions, one for John Peel, one for David Kidd Jensen in 1983, and another one for John Peel. And the John Peel session in 1984 featured 4 unreleased songs, which didn't come out until a year later. Walk Away, Poison Door, No Time to Cry, and Emma. And these were, at one point, the Sisters were the most bootlegged band on WA Records, which is quite a surprise when you consider what other guff was on WA at the time. Bootlegging is obviously a vicious and evil, heinous crime, stealing money from the expense accounts of coked-up record company executives. Or perhaps, if you want to put it another way, a way of shamelessly ripping off the products with substandard releases, poor sound quality, and crappy cover art. I've got a couple of Sisters bootlegs I'm going to be showing you shortly, so strap yourselves in for a wild and exciting time. All right, maybe don't. Those 4 songs then took the number of new Sisters songs up to 7 so far in that year, with Body and Soul, Train, After Hours, Walk Away, Poison Door, No Time to Cry, Emma, and last but never least, the re-recorded version of Body Electric. And the band went into the studio starting in June 1984, running for a couple of months to record their debut studio album that was released in, I think, March 1985. First and Last and Always. This is a brilliant record. I absolutely love it to bits, but there's a single that comes out before it, so I don't want to rush ahead too much now, ladies and jelly spoons. So the single that came out before it, and again, here's the 12-inch that I have, is Walk Away. And Walk Away, merciful release number 33. So at one point in the 90s, these were rare grooves, to put it mildly. Difficult to get, expensive, you hardly ever saw them. They were the missing links in my sister's collection for quite some time. The early EPs, because the A-sides hadn't been on an album, were in print, easy to get. Getting a copy of, let's say, number 46 single, such as Walk Away, was nowhere near as easy or as straightforward. This is backed with 2 tracks, by the way, Poison Door and On the Wire. Poison Door has lyrics by Gary Marks. On the Wire is a song that the band started playing in the year 2000 live. I love On the Wire, it's really great. Poison Door, not so much. And Walk Away is a song that the band brought back to their set list in around about 2017, 2019, and really, really enjoyed adding it in. But when I get to talking about the album, that's when I'll pick up Walk Away in more detail. Limited editions of the 12-inch featured this 7-inch flexi disc, which you can't hear, but is the Long Train, which is a 33 RPM 7-inch extended remix of Train from the B-side of Body and Soul. This was a particularly hard groove to get. The track Long Train later became the B-side of Lucretia, My Reflection, which turns up right at the end of this episode in an unexpected way. And then the album itself kind of was preceded with a second single called No Time to Cry, which was released in March 1985. This got to number 63 in Britain's pop charts. Is it great? Not massively. Is it okay? Yeah, it's pretty good. I quite like it. It's a good song. It's not an amazing song. It's very melodic. And it's backed with 2 extra tracks. One's Blood Money and the other one is Bury Me Deep, here on a 12-inch. No Time to Cry by Marks, Adams and Hussey with Eldritch as well. So Eldritch got the biggest share of the performance credits. Blood Money by Eldritch and Hussey, and Bury Me Deep by Eldritch. So you kind of get a sense of people would come together, write songs, bring them to the table, and the best ones would get chosen. Something tells me Eldritch was probably voting for his songs more than anybody else's, but there's the rub, isn't it? So that is No Time to Cry, which I by the way, I really like it. Really interesting songs, some really interesting lyrical ideas afoot in No Time to Cry. But the singles, if I had to pick my least favourite Sisters singles, they probably would be Walk Away and No Time to Cry. Both are quite, not Spartan, but they're very direct, they're very obvious. The best Sisters singles have a sense of mystery around them and a sense of, what's the word I'm thinking of here? A magic, which those songs don't quite have. They're very good, especially the soaring backing vocals that we have from Hussey, but they're just not quite got the magical X factor, which is odd because I think First and Last and Always is a magnificent record. It's one of the best debut albums of all time, it is. There was a number of editions of it. I think there was a gatefold. I think I've got a copy of that somewhere. But it was pretty beaten up. And what I'm going to do, and this is where I'm going to get vaguely autobiographical, is I do have 2 copies of the vinyl, because I had a pretty good quality copy of the records, but a terrible sleeve, and vice versa. And so First and Last and Always, there's the classic 4-piece lineup: Gary, Craig, Andrew, and Wayne, outside a porno theatre in America. Detroit's finest adult movies, it says on there. And as we go further into the sleeve, then also a selection of stuff on the background that tells you. So the recording of this record was quite difficult, actually, in so much as I think Eldritch had a nervous breakdown during the recording of this record because the pressure was really on. Imagine you've been given an advance, which is effectively a loan that comes out of your royalties. So if you don't deliver an LP and it doesn't sell sufficient copies, you don't have any royalties to live off. And the loan is taken out of the artist's percentage share of the sale. So let's say an artist's share is 10%, on the grounds that only one band in 10 really succeeds, and therefore 9 bands out of 10 lose their money and end up never getting their publishing or their royalties or anything because they're still somehow unrecouped. Don't get me into the weird and unusual machinations of record company and accountant politics, because Return of the Jedi didn't turn a profit until 2013, even though it was one of the biggest films of all time. It was still unrecouped as a loss maker. What the fuck? That's bullshit, isn't it? That's accounting tricks to do tax losses so you can make more money. And that means, of course, that for the same thing that for this record, it probably made more than its money back many, many times over. But because of the machinations of the contract, the band didn't get the money. So you imagine all that pressure and that advance, whatever it is, kind of in that small really, 4 people on the payroll, you're paid a sum of money and you're tasked with delivering a record in whatever form it comes. And hopefully it's going to be commercial. Because if it isn't, it's back to the job centre and then it's working down the pot noodle factory in Didcot or somewhere after that. First and Last and Always is effectively a magnificent single shot deal. So if you're in the band, you kind of go, right, this is it. This is the one chance. You only get to make one debut album. Some bands never get to make more than one album. And so what you've got to do is when you shoot, you've got to score. You've got to make the best record that you possibly can. That is going to fuck with your head. It's going to put an enormous amount of pressure on you because you know that if this shot fails, you don't get a second shot. And since you don't get a second shot, you're going to have to go and do a day job, and you're going to probably have to be very, very normal and very boring. People that are in rock bands, hell, I was one once, do it for 3 reasons. 1, because it's really good fun. 2, because it's a way out of the rat race. And 3, because you think you're quite good at it, and sometimes you are quite good at it. So you put all of those on, and you go, if this is the only shot that you've got, you need to hit. Because if you don't hit, it's back to work at 9 a.m. on Monday. So recorded between June and August 1984, First and Last and Always has a convoluted set of mixing credits. And I'll quickly kind of work out, there are up to 3 different mixes for each track that are circulating on in-house WEA promo cassettes. Mixes by Andrew Eldritch, mixes by, let me just quickly check, Dave Allen, and then quick mixes by someone called Andrew Livingston, I believe. I may have had some involvement in it as well. And depending upon which version of the album you get, there are 2 different mixes of the title track, First and Last and Always. As a general rule, by the way, the title track, side 2, track 1, original vinyl editions, has the full version of the track. If you don't, CD releases, at least CD releases in the early 90s, such as this version, contained a slightly different mix of the title track, First and Last and Always, with different drums on, just to make things nice and easy for you. There are also the circulating recordings of the WEA promo cassettes with the 3 different mixes on, or the 3 different mixing credits. There's like 4 separate mixes of Black Planet, for example. There's a lot of stuff that's going around at that point in time. And so First and Last and Always, just buy it, really, if you like the Sisters. Firstly, there's probably never going to be another Sisters record, so you need to get the ones that you can get. And secondly, it's bloody good. It's really good. It's one of my favourite Goth LPs. I know the Sisters don't think of themselves as Goth. They said that they're an industrial groove machine and rock and roll animals and things like that, and they are not a Goth band, and they play rock and roll. But to be fair, if you're going to think about a band that is Goth, there is very few bands that go, hey, we're Goth and we're totally cool with it. Most bands are like, we're not Goth. No, because they think that that's too small a word for what they do. It's an element of what they do. It's not everything, of course. It never will be. It never has been. And the thing about Goth, I think of myself as a kind of like a lapsed Goth, like a Catholic that doesn't go to church anymore, on the grounds that, yeah, all my T-shirts are black. All my shoes are black, all my socks are black, all my coats are black, because that's the best colour in the world. Not because I'm a fucking Goth. You know, when I was in Birmingham, and I lived in a very broad church, so, you know, I like New Order, I like Pop Believe Yourself, I like the Sisters, and I'd go to the barrel organ in Birmingham on a Friday and a Saturday night. My friends would disappear at a certain point. I'd see them again in the barrel at 7 o'clock the next Saturday or the next day or a week later. And I remember I was walking through the square. Not that this means anything to you, which is now near where a KFC and a CEX is, and near a Boots, just round the corner from W.H. Smith. I've forgotten the name of the square because it's meaningless and boring. And I bought from Swordfish the World in Motion New Order remix 12-inch. And they were like, oh, what records have you bought? I went, oh, New Order. And they were like, the football song. And I'm like, yeah, I love New Order. But it's the football song. Like, you bring out the 12-inch and it's this gold thing with Italian piano house mixes on. And they're like, took the piss out of me. And I'm like, well, that's up to you, isn't it? Now, I'm not going to go Alan Partridge and say, needless to say, I did have the last laugh, but I did have the last laugh because I saw New Order and had a fantastic time over 20 times during the course of my life. And on the nights I was seeing New Order, they probably weren't. And so I was very definitely having better nights. Oh, God, I've gone full Partridge, haven't I? Oh, I'm sorry. I've gone full Alan Partridge, forgive me. Anyway, where was I? Goth. Yeah, Goth. So I think of myself as a partial Goth, is that was able to phase in and out of it, like a ghost is able to walk through walls and disappear throughout various parts of the house. So while the album was re-recorded, the band announced the Black October tour in October 1984, a staggering 40 years ago. It really doesn't seem like that long ago at all. I remember seeing Black October t-shirts and, a few years later after I got into the band in 1986, thinking, oh, I just missed them touring. Damn, they'll be around again. Not so fast, Sonny Jim. And Black October was planned to coincide with the release of the LP, but the LP was unfinished. There were lots and lots of mixes that were going on. In November 1984, Eldritch took the reins and started finishing the LP himself. Dave Allen resigned from making the album, so Eldritch took it over, finalised the mixes, and it became effectively, hyper-focused on making sure that this album was the best album it possibly could be. And it's really bloody good as a result. But it's not amazing, but it's really bloody good. And Eldritch started wearing a hat because he started to lose his hair due to stress and overwork. I lost my hair, and I know this is not news to you. You can see I've lost my hair. But there was a time when I was extremely stressed by a certain set of situations, and I was, washing my hair, and then I'd run my fingers through my hair, because that's what you did when you had hair. And I'd be like, why is there a load of hair in my hat on my hands? And that's pretty much how I started going bald. Pretty much as I was so stressed about a certain situation. Eldritch instead just took to wearing amazing fucking hats, which is, by the way, one solution, one that's also recommended by The Edge from U2. So we had that situation that was ongoing. Black October tour happened, the album wasn't ready. It was meant to be ready, so a second leg of the tour, which was due to start in March 1985, called, I think, Tune In, Turn On and Load Out, or Burnout was what it was called. I'll show you that in a minute. To back up the release of the LP. And the LP, by the way, first and last and always, is split effectively into two halves by writers. So side one of the album, and that is Black Planet, Walk Away, No Time to Cry, A Rock in a Hard Place, Marianne, generally instrumentally written by Wayne Hussey on a 12-string guitar. A slightly different, more flamboyant, flowery way of doing it. Black Planet was a song that was originally called Dance on Glass. Wayne wrote some lyrics, Andrew sang them, he hated them, rewrote the lyrics, and it became Black Planet. Then we've got No Time to Cry and Walk Away, the two singles. Very straightforward, very accessible. We've got A Rock in a Hard Place, a song I've still not seen played live at any of my sister's gigs, I think. And finally, Marianne version, closing side one. Marianne is an amazing song, on the grounds that, although it says version, and you kind of go, is there another version of it? No. Marianne is dubby, it is relentless, repetitive, very similar actually, reminds me of Suicide, the band, with a very rigid rhythm section and a very kind of monotonous driving rhythm. Marianne has a German verse, and the German verse is translated in page 53 of the Heartland fanzine. So I'm going to read out the German verse for you as translated, which is: what I can do and what I could do, I just don't know anymore. Give me something beautiful again, drag me from the sea. I hear you calling, Marianne, can you hear me calling? I am here alone. I hear you calling, Marianne, without your help. I am lost in this place. I hear you calling, Marianne. So the suggestion, of course, about the use of the name Marianne is that it's autobiographical. Autobiographical. What's autobiographical? Autobiographical. And it almost definitely is in some respects. But the line about save me, save me, save me from the grave is a curious line that some people have thought is very goth. If he doesn't get this woman, he's going to die. No, it's just a pun on words, because the phrase save me from the grave can be used to just mean something grave is something pretty serious, actually, as opposed to something pretty fatal. By the way, I started off doing this when it was light about half an hour ago. It's now getting quite dark. So at some point I might switch the light off. And if I do, I'll give you enough warning and you can put your sunglasses on. But if not, you can just watch this. That's okay. Flip over the album. Side 2. So we have, first and last and always, the title track to the album. And the sisters have done title tracks on all of their studio records. Floodland has Flood 1 and 2. And Vision Thing has, of course, Vision Thing. And Some Girls Wander by Mistake takes its line from Teachers by Leonard Cohen, which the band did in a medley live with On the Wire. Just keep you on your toes there, kids. But first and last and always, as a title track, is fantastic. It's opened a lot of the sisters' gigs. I love hearing it. The band have recently changed the arrangement, so they've gone back to the original guitar arpeggio, which is used on the recorded version of it, and it's just a banger, really. It's difficult for me to talk about it in a cohesive way without sounding like a fanboy. It's really good. It is really good. Just watch it, really. And then with side 2 gets a little darker. We have Possession, 9, both written by Gary Marks. They're okay, but they're slightly more staid. They're less obviously. They're the closest things to filler this LP has got, which is not something that the sisters would do again. And then we have Logic. I love Logic. It's a great song. The subtitle for it is Amphetamine Logic. It's a song about drug addiction, compulsion, about not being able to see beyond the immediate thing that's right in front of you and hoping to God that it's the right thing. And it's a fabulous track that builds in a crescendo of guitars as they create a lattice work around them and everything ramps up. And it's just a banger. It's brilliant. I love it to bits. I mean, of course, like all sisters material at this time, there is an element of daftness and silliness about it, and you have to be able to laugh with it, not necessarily at it. But should you do that, it would end up to be a very rewarding experience. And then the last song on the album, Some Kind of Stranger, a song that's so slow that Dr. Avalanche couldn't actually lock into it on the time code. And so the song had to be reprogrammed, which is a bizarre state of affairs. Some Kind of Stranger hasn't really been played live very often. I've seen it played live twice, both in a medley with a cover of Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb. That was quite an experience, especially considering I didn't know they were going to open with Comfortably Numb. So the first time I saw Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd performed live by anyone was the Sisters of Mercy at the Birmingham NEC in 1992, my first Sisters gig. I got to tell you, that was fantastic. So fucking good. Really glad that I got to see it, because it really was the last gasp of the Vision Thin lineup of the group, which really was a proper band. And that is First and Last and Always. Really great debut album by the Sisters of Mercy. Some other stuff happened after that. The band went on the road. They started touring. And I've just reminded something. So this might surprise you, but I'm just going to show you what it is. So I was an interesting child, and I had habits. And one of my habits was having too much time and not enough money, like many people in the 1980s and 1990s. So I, using art card I'd stolen from my school, Don't Tell Kings Norton Boys School, and my poshest black fountain pen, I wrote out my version of the lyrics to the album, because I think the album needed a lyric sheet and it didn't have one. So here is the lyrics, which I've handwritten for the entire of the record. There's Black Planet. There's Walk Away. I've not done this for any other album, by the way. There's No Time to Cry and Rock in a Hard Place. You can see my handwriting if you really want. There's Marianne, which I think I put the German. I don't think I've put the German lines in there. I just skipped them completely, actually, which is quite good. Then First and Last and Always, the title track, of course. I've run out of space now. Possession, 919. Logic, which I called Amphetamine Logic, because I was a sad fanboy. And Some Kind of Stranger itself. And I've got to tell you, actually, the lyrics are very, very good. They're very literate. They're very articulate. They're human, but not necessarily warm. And they are really, really fascinating. Of course, if I was Andrew Eldritch, I would sell these for gazillions of quids, but I'm not, so I'm not going to. And I don't think anyone's really interested anyway. I even forget it's there sometimes. So the band went on tour, and they had a song, as I've mentioned before, they did do a cover version of Hot Chocolate's Emma, which was unfinished during the sessions. They went back to that in 1988, re-sang the vocals, remixed the track and put it on the 12-inch of the Dominion single. But that is a tale for another time. And then the band went on tour. So they went on tour, played lots and lots of shows. The first date of the tour was a TV appearance on the Old Grey Whistle Test on British television. And I think all of the fractures in the band's lineup were already there. So I think Gary Marks' guitar stopped working for the first verse and chorus of the song. The other members of the band effectively had to slip in and, on live television, reconfigure the song. to play it before the guitar came back in. But not long after that, he left or was booted. And then the band had to reshape the entire set for one guitar, mostly focusing towards newer material and newer songs. And as I've said before, they were the most bootlegged band on WA Records. So I'm going to show you some bootlegs. This is a contemporary 1985 Sisters of Mercy live bootleg. This is We're All Aware of That, recorded live in Rome in May 1985, featuring 10 songs from the set, a mixing desk quality recording, really, really enjoyable, expensive and difficult to get. And this features a truncated version of the band's standard set at the time: First and Last and Always, Train, Marianne, No Time to Cry, Emma, Rockin' a Hard Place, Floor Show, Alice, Gimme Shelter, and Knocking on Heaven's Door, a cover version of that old Bob Dylan classic. Is it good? Yeah, it's really good. In fact, there's lots of really great Sisters live material from this period that I'd recommend that you listen to. That is one of them. There was also and this is bizarre, a 7-inch live box set called, it's upside down, called Silence is Platinum. I bought this for £7 in 2007 from a record shop called, I think, Rat Records in Camberwell, in the days when everyone was ditching their vinyl and I was buying all the vinyl that they were ditching. It comes in a box set with a silver foil cover. It features a booklet here, which I'll show you, which just gives you an idea. It says it's number 285 of 1,000, and this features 7 songs. And these 7 songs are recorded at the Long Beach, California Electronic Fender Ballroom on the 30th of May. That's not strictly true, is it? No, it is. With performing a Rockin' a Hard Place, Floor Show, Gimme Shelter, Body and Soul, Alice, Marianne, and No Time to Cry, across 2 7-inches. There's a poster that's in here. I've not opened this poster for a very long time. I think this is a fold out of the gig poster itself. There you are. Not quite sure why that one was chosen as the image for the poster. There was a booklet. Again, I don't know what's in here, that tells the story of the Sisters of Mercy. This is probably a very expensive boutique release at the time. That would have been staggeringly expensive. And then 2 7-inch discs. So let's go for the 7-inch discs. A Rockin' a Hard Place and Floor Show, and Gimme Shelter. This is the original 7-inch on white vinyl. And then we have another 7-inch, this time with Alice, Body and Soul. What else have we got on there? Marianne and No Time to Cry. This might be a coloured vinyl, I can't really tell. It's all got very dark. If it is coloured, it's dark green, so I will check that later when I switch the light on. And that 7-inch box set, again, I'm the kind of guy that buys these things and then talks about it on my YouTube years later. But again, at this point, I was listening to these recordings, and this was after I'd seen the Sisters, and kind of going, did I miss anything by not seeing them? Well, I wouldn't have appreciated it at the time because I was, 11, 12 when the band were playing these shows. So if I'd have been 18, 19, I would have been like sick as a dog. But I can't get to the point of feeling like I really missed out by not seeing the classic original lineup of a certain band. Did I miss out by not seeing Kraftwerk with Wolfgang Flür and Karl Bartos? Yes, but I was 8 last time that they played. So I'm just going to live with it. That's how it is. There's also a bootleg CD from this period. This is Holocaust, live on good old-fashioned KTS Records. Kiss the Stone, a record label that cost me an awful lot of money over the years. And this is a fine mixing desk recording of what I think is probably the Royal Albert Hall gig in 1985 on CD. Again, difficult to get, but also ridiculously easy to get. And the last show by the band, or at least by this configuration of the group, on I think it's the 18th of June, 1985. Let me just quickly check on the inside here. 18th of June, 1985, was filmed and released as Wake in concert at the Royal Albert Hall. The only officially professionally shot and mixed circulating Sisters of Mercy performance since 1985 is this one. The band haven't done any radio sessions, radio shows or TV broadcasts since then. They've just done it live. They've done it Been there, done that, still doing it. This was released as a sell-through VHS on Channel 5 Video in the UK before there was a Channel 5 to watch, and then has never been issued officially on DVD. This is an unofficial Brazilian DVD edition from about 2001 that I caught in a record shop for £10 in about 2003, which features effectively either a Laserdisc or VHS transfer turned onto DVD. Inside here as well, by the way, I have a postcard for the show, which says here, tune on, turn in, burn out, 18th of June. And I have a set of Sisters of Mercy postcards, which were sold on the band's 30th anniversary tour in 2011. I wonder where those gone. It's really nice to see them again, alongside some merchandise leaflets and things. The Royal Albert Hall show is on YouTube. It's really, really good. Really, really recommend it. In fact, all of the circulating Sisters bootlegs are available on there if you want to hear what they sound like. First and Last and Always got a deluxe edition re-release as part of the Merciful Release box set in 2006. It features the band's 3 studio albums in expanded editions with B-sides and extra tracks. This version of First and Last and Always corrects the problem that there is with the wrong mix of First and Last and Always on the release, and also adds the relevant B-sides from the period. So this adds to it Poison Door, On the Wire, Blood Money, Bury Me Deep, Long Train, and an early demo of Some Kind of Stranger. And you could buy them for a limited period of time in the 3 CDs in digipacks inside the Merciful Release box set. Me being the record collector scum that I am, that's exactly what I did, because I'm never going to change. And then finally, after the tour, Gary Marks had obviously left. The Sisters of Mercy were a trio, and they started working on new material. After some time away, they went to Hamburg and had a rehearsal on the 21st of October 1985. And there they played early and primitive versions of 2 songs that Eldritch had demoed. One turned into Dominion, and the other one was a high-tech, super speed, kind of 78 RPM version of Lucretia, My Reflection, which after 2 hours, Craig threw down his bass, said fuck it, walked out, and was never a member of the Sisters of Mercy again. Wayne and Andrew carried on. Andrew said, now we've got rid of the deadwood, we can actually do some work. And then the next day, Wayne Hussey quit. So the original plan, which was to record a covers EP of Emma, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Gimme, 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 and Man After Midnight, and I think, is it Christy McVeigh's Stop Dragging My Heart Around, which I don't know at all, was abandoned. And of the 8 songs which Wayne had written in that period, which he presented to Andrew and to Craig, none were taken up. So those 8 songs became part of Wayne's next band, which I'm going to have to start talking about them at some point. It took until 1989 to sell 100,000 copies of First and Last and Always in the UK. It wasn't a big selling LP, but on the back of the band's next record, which was called Floodland in 1987, loads of people then bought the album, including me, as an impressionable 15 or 16-year-old in Birmingham, in England, sitting in the dark, wearing black, feeling sorry and moody, with big glasses. Hey, what's changed in the past 35 years? Absolutely nothing. I'm still sitting in the dark, wearing big glasses, feeling moody. And sometimes you've got to think about, the 50-year-old that I am now is basically just a slightly older version of the 15-year-old guy that I once was, and the 15-year-old guy that I once was. Sometimes people look at the 15-year-old version of them and go, I've got to disown that dude, nothing to do with me, I don't know who you're talking about, and they're like embarrassed by it. I'm kind of going, that guy's the foundations of who I am today, and I'm going to build upon it, I'm going to remember him, and I'm going to try and, when I grow older, I'm going to try and do things that I enjoy. Because frankly, when you're an adult, right, nobody needs to tell you what to do. Nobody else tells you who you need to be. You can just be who you are. And if who you are is basically just a big, old, bold version of the 15-year-old goth you that really loves the Sisters of Mercy, what's wrong with that? I'm going to give you a clue. Absolutely nothing. As Robert Smith sang in Killing an Arab. And that is where I'm going to wrap up. it's got very dark. I should probably show you how dark it's got outside, because when I started off, I showed you the outside world, in case you think I'm one of these wankers that's in a bunker basement. Oh no, I'm in the penthouse of my house. I'm at the top floor. And you end up kind of going, well, it's got dark. And obviously in February, it gets dark at about 4:30 in the afternoon. This still in January, so it gets dark at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And in the time that we've been talking, it's got dark, but I haven't put the big light on because I don't have to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the outside world, and then we're going to say goodbye. So thank you for this. If you like it, great, subscribe, comment, etc. As long as you say nice things. If you don't, the filter's going to eat it. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. Here we go. It's a big bad world out there, and there's only one of me. Ugh, look at that. It's horrible. It's terrible. I hate it. Let's switch it off.